Animal racing in Australia has been an industry full of secrets. Luckily now, some of the terrible things that happen to animals who are used to race have been exposed, but there is a lot of work to be done in this industry to make up for these malpractices. The most common sports involving animals are horse racing and greyhound racing. While these sports generate money within Australia and are used for gambling purposes, the maltreatment of the animals involved are not visibly apparent, which is why they remain popular. It is no secret that animal racing is a controversial topic in Australia, even all over the world. While the profit-seeking industry of greyhound and horse racing, specifically in Australia, has been proven to be unethical, the industry brings in a lot of revenue for the Australian government, making it difficult to get rid of. We think that money should be invested to implement reforms and policies that improves the lives of the animals bred to race and post-race retirement.
Animals involved in the racing industry are treated poorly. The main issues surrounding horse racing are wastage of bred horses and the mistreatment of them. Thousands of horses are bred each year for the racing industry, but the large majority of these horses never actually make it to a racetrack. Wastage in racing is the discarding of an animal that is no longer cut out for racing. Injured horses that cannot be healed and are no longer making their owners a profit are sent to knackeries or slaughterhouses, where they are slaughtered to become dog meat or exported for human consumption in foreign countries. Although this is not the fate of all retired racehorses, this is a very real outcome for a large majority of horses. The issue of wastage is also a major problem within the greyhound racing industry. Over the past 12 years, 97,783 greyhounds have been born in New South Wales. However, in 2016, only 6,809 of these dogs were registered. This draws the question, where are the remaining 90,974 greyhounds of New South Wales? After an investigation of the greyhound racing industry, it was found that 50 to 70% of greyhounds being born in New South Wales were being voluntarily killed. Over 40% of greyhounds bred to race never make it onto the racetrack. Many times, this occurs when owners decide the dog is not fit to compete. A quote from a greyhound trainer puts in perspective the terrible treatment these dogs endure. I quote, "Dogs who don't have the instinct to chase or the tools to be a consistent winner. Well, a good handler can spot it a mile away. Most of the time, I drown the pups." For the greyhounds and horses who do not meet this fate, they are retired from the racing industry, are moved to another trainer, or they'll be bought by someone who wants to actually care for them. According to the National Museum of Australia, there are a minimum of 8,100 new homes outside the racing industry for Australia's horses every year. Within the horse racing industry, wastage is just the beginning. Horses also undergo a lot of mistreatment, including being drugged, confined into tight spaces, and whipped. It is common for trainers to drug their horses. For example, stimulants are used to give the horses a boost of energy that will enhance their racing performances. However, these same stimulants can also cause the horse to overexert themselves, leading to major injuries. Pain relievers are also used to enhance the horse's performance. These drugs mask the horse from feeling pain from current injuries and makes them train or race on these injuries. This is dangerous for the horses because they can further injure themselves to the point of death. Another major issue within the treatment of horses is the confinement racehorses experience. In a natural environment, horses spend many hours throughout the day grazing and spending time around other horses. Racehorses are many times found isolated in their own stall, similar to the size of a small bedroom. In addition to being confined to small spaces, many races are held during the summer months, when the weather conditions are dangerous for the racehorses. A result of racehorses exerting themselves in this heat is heat stress or heat exhaustion. The racing industry has a hot weather policy in place that cancels events if the temperature is 38 degrees Celsius or higher, but many times this heat level is still high enough to result in horses experiencing heat stress. Whipping is a common tactic used in horse racing because it is believed to make the horses run faster and continue to exert themselves even while exhausted. Realistically, continuous whipping increases the horse's chance for injury. Also, a recent study carried out by Dr. Paul McGreevy and Dr. David Evans in January of 2011 found that whipping a horse in the final stages of a race does not make the horse run faster than he would if he wasn't whipped. In 2009, Australia implemented whip rules to prevent over-excessive use during a race. However, after the threat of a strike by the jockeys, these regulations were decreased to the point of no longer making a difference.
I've taken myself out of the situation because I feel I don't want to break the ban again. I don't want to be sitting here saying we want to hit their horses more. That is far from what we're trying to accomplish. I feel that I can't go by the rules the way they're structured at the moment. And so I would rather not be in the front page of the papers. The Hughes is banned again.
Similar to horse racing, there are many malpractices surrounding the racing of greyhounds as well. Live baiting, or the illegal utilization of live animals in the training of greyhounds, is one example. This process is implemented to tempt and taunt the racing dog until they are finally rewarded with the animal. Trainers use the same animal to taunt the dog with until it is shredded to bits. Trainers will not even put traumatized or injured animals down. Outside of training, dogs that actually make it to the track are subject to major injuries, including but not limited to broken limbs and severe head injuries. During the races themselves, approximately 200 dogs per week are reported injured. Death due to cardiac arrest after the severe physical strain of racing occurs. However, many dog racers do not think that treating their dogs are worth the money and have their dogs put down rather than treated. When greyhounds are no longer fast enough to win races, they are put down, once their purposes have been exhausted. The general lifespan for these dogs are 12 to 14 years if they are not racers, but if they are, they will generally not live to be 5 years old. Sometimes the dogs will go into breeding programs, but will still probably be killed at 5 to 6 years. A ban on greyhound racing was announced on October 11th of 2016 by former NSW Premier Mike Baird during a conference addressing the multiple occurrences of animal cruelty that had surfaced. Videos released to the public showed the poor treatment greyhounds were receiving, as well as examples of live baiting. Investigations of greyhound mistreatment had been a reoccurring topic, but it took the actual video footage being released to the public for a change to be made. Here's a video footage of Mike Baird explaining why this ban was necessary.
I want to firstly thank Justice McHugh for his inquiry into greyhound racing. The report he has produced is chilling, confronting, it's horrific. As you'll see when you go through the report, he has shone the light on an industry that has overseen the slaughter of tens of thousands of healthy dogs whose only crime was they weren't fast enough. He's also shown an industry which has turned a blind eye to the barbaric practice of live baiting. He's shown that the industry has a culture of deception. Indeed, the Commissioner has found that it is no longer entitled to the trust of the community. The Commissioner also found that even if we were to keep it open, and there's a range of options and how to try to do that, he said the industry would not be economically viable in the long term. It would still lead to the slaughter of thousands of healthy dogs, and live baiting would likely to continue. Now, when confronted with those facts, the only humane response is to close that industry down and do it in a way that we work with every single stakeholder with order, with respect, and ensuring we minimise the consequences. The trend around the world has seen this industry reduce, and it has been led on the basis of animal welfare. Certainly this is not an easy decision. It's not something that has been taken lightly, but when confronted with Justice McHugh's reports, I believe there is no other alternative. It is the right thing to do.
Although there was a massive amount of evidence and reasoning behind the ban, it was lifted shortly after. After consistent pressure from the racing community, as well as the government realizing the industry should have been given a chance to resolve the issues that were brought to light, the ban was lifted. Here's video footage of Mike Bard now revoking the ban he himself announced.
Now, the feedback that I have received, my cabinet colleagues, MPs across government have received from the community is, yes, they were horrified by the findings in the Special Commission of Inquiry of what was going on in the industry, but they have also said, why did you not give the industry one last chance? That is what they have said consistently, again and again. So it's clear, in hindsight, as we reflect on this, that we got it wrong. I got it wrong, the Cabinet got it wrong, and the government got it wrong.
Although greyhound racing is once again legalized, the government has implemented new policies that must be followed within the racing community.
Both of these sports attract gamblers. Gambling is not a profession in Australia, yet the country houses many gamblers. In fact, the country has the highest rate of gambling adults in the world at 80% of surveyed adults. It is evident that gambling is a favored pastime. With all of this being said, placing bets on horses and greyhounds at racing events is popular within the Australian gambling world. The Australian government collects approximately 11% of their tax revenue due to gambling and consists of 0.55% of the country's GDP. What this tells us is that the government benefits off of the very industry that promotes the dangers that are paired with animal racing. Gambling is a source of revenue to the government and additionally employs many, from racers to trainers to those who work behind the scenes. There are 2,781 full-time jobs within the greyhound racing industry in New South Wales alone. According to an investigative article written in June of 2016, 775 greyhound breeders, 7,073 owners and syndicate members, and 3,744 trainers within 34 different greyhound clubs were found in New South Wales. Annually, the greyhound racing industry, including usage of facilities outside of race day events and revenue collected from racegoers, generates an annual amount of $335.7 million. These factors for greyhound racing alone demonstrates the prevalence of this debatably toxic industry. The horse racing industry on its own collects approximately 20 billion Australian dollars, with the government actually benefiting 5% of that, so $1 billion. Because horse racing contributes to Australia's GDP through approximately 0.6%, and in cash terms $6.3 billion, the probability of the ban of animal racing seems very low.
It is clear that the ban on greyhound racing and the act of racing animals in general is a controversial one. There are perspectives that support the upsides and downsides to both. Racing provides jobs for many and makes up a significant chunk of the Australian government's revenue. Without the sport, many people would be out of jobs and the country's GDP would heavily decrease. At the same time, the risk that is associated with this sport for the animals involved is enough to make viewers sick to their stomachs. Animal cruelty and death is a huge part of this sport and is something that needs to be addressed by supervisors and the government itself. For many, the controversies addressed whether or not the financial benefits outweigh the ethical ones.